How's it going, guys? My name is Luis, and a couple of weeks ago I did a series of videos on my must-have games for the Nintendo Switch and the Xbox One. This is the final installment on the PS4. Sorry it took a little bit, I got stuck doing some video game reviews, so there was a slight delay in this episode. But without further ado, here are my must-have PS4 games, and this is a focus on exclusives. So here's the list in no particular order. The Last of Us was one of my favorite games on the PS3, and it only gets better with the PS4. Play as Joel in this post-apocalyptic world as an infectious fungus is turning people into zombie-like creatures that further spread the disease with every bite. The game takes you on a journey to deliver Ellie, a young teenage girl that may hold the cure to the infection, to some doctors on the other side of the country. It's a third-person action-adventure shooter with a pretty amazing story, talented actors, and probably most surprisingly, a really good multiplayer mode. On PS4, the game gets a 1080p 60 upgrade with the native 4K 30 option on the PS4 Pro. Now, from the same developer that brought you The Last of Us comes another series, the Uncharted series. The Uncharted series is a much more lighthearted series than The Last of Us and can be best described as an interactive action film. The Trilogy of games came out on the PS3 last generation, but now it's been bundled up and remastered for the PS4. Additionally, a fourth installment and a DLC standalone game called Uncharted: The Lost Legacy were released exclusively on the PS4. While the original trilogy focused on the adventuring of a younger treasure hunter Nathan Drake, Uncharted 4 focuses on an older, more mature Nathan, one that just wants to settle down. The Lost Legacy, on the other hand, has you play as a female side character named Chloe from Uncharted 2, who partners up with the villain of Uncharted 4. This may all sound a bit convoluted to newcomers of the series, but it's definitely one of the craziest cinematic rides you don't want to miss. So to recap, that's Uncharted: The Nathan Drake Collection, Uncharted 4, and Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. Horizon Zero Dawn was a pretty big surprise from Guerrilla Games. The game was incredibly hyped up, but coming from a studio that primarily worked on the first-person shooter series Killzone, it was pretty unpredictable on how this third-person action-adventure game would turn out. Luckily for gamers, it came out pretty darn fantastic. The game has you play as Aloy, a girl who has very little recollection of her childhood and where she came from. Suddenly, as a young adult, she finds this piece of tech that's unlike anything else she's ever seen before. Now she's dead set on learning more about the secrets of this technology and herself in the process. Oh yeah, this also takes place in the distant future where it's almost all prehistoric, although all the animals are now robotic creatures. It's pretty darn cool. Until Dawn is like a quantic dream game, meaning it's very story-driven and all about choices that alter the story in the process, although it's made by Supermassive Games instead. This game crafts together a horror serial killer movie all within a game that stars you, the player. Based on the choices and actions you make in the game, you solely choose who lives or dies. You're essentially creating your own story that you can rewrite with every playthrough. It's a fantastic game to play alone in the dark or when you have a bunch of friends over who fight over the choices you'll make. If you also have a PSVR, there's a DLC game tied within the series as well. Sound Shapes came out on PS3 and Vita, but it was also released on the PS4, and I personally thought it was a sleeper hit platformer that really should be on everyone's console. Play as the Sound Shapes blob who jumps from platform to platform while being in sync to the background music happening in the stage. Other than controlling its movement and jump, you can make the Sound Shapes blob gain momentum by making it heavier, and you can also have it stick to walls. Just make sure you don't touch anything that's red or you'll die. Oh yeah, this is also part of the cross-buy program, so if you buy this on one of the platforms, you get it on pretty much everything for free, so PS4, PS3, and Vita. Resogun is another cross-buy title, meaning if you buy it on one platform, you pretty much get it on everything else PlayStation. It's a twin-stick shooter that has you travel around a cylinder-like figure, shooting down enemies while also trying to rescue kidnapped humans. It's one of the most stunning-looking games on the PS4 with its insane use of particle effects. One cool thing that was added post-launch too was the ability to create your own spaceship with the pixel editor, so if you're savvy with pixel art, you can actually have a lot of fun with it. There's also local and online co-op if you want to play with a friend as well. Infamous Second Son is one of the more lower tier entries in the Infamous series, but I seem to have enjoyed it more than other critics. That's why I personally recommend it. It's a third-person action game that has you play as a conduit named Delsin. A conduit is a subspecies of humans with superpower-like abilities, and Delsin has the power to copy other conduits' powers. The DUP, or the police force, isn't having it though, and are capturing all the conduits, or as they see them, as bioterrorists. It's an entertaining and enjoyable adventure, even if Delsin doesn't live up to the character momentum of Cole from Infamous 1 and 2. Ratchet and Clank is a reimagining of the original Ratchet and Clank while tying into the whole promotion of the movie that came out the same year. Regardless of the whole stereotype of movies and video game collaborations, Ratchet and Clank is still one of the best games on the PS4 in terms of being a platformer and its visuals. Relive all the classic gameplay now in above 1080p visuals if you're on the PS4 Pro, and it quite literally looks like a Pixar movie come to life. Nier Automata came out in very early 2017, and it may have fallen under the radar for some people when playing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Regardless if you skipped it last year, you really should go back and play it because it's one of the standout console exclusives on the PS4. It's a hack and slash action game with RPG elements and an absurdly deep story with even deeper characters. Automata has you participate in a proxy war within the same post-apocalyptic setting of Nier that came out on the PS3 and the Xbox 360. Persona 5 is one of my favorite games of all time, and the same pretty much goes for the rest of the series. In Persona 5, you take on the role of a teenager who gets forced to move in with a family friend in Shibuya when you get wrongfully accused of a crime. As you start your new life, you meet new friends that all have a bone to pick with the world, and ultimately, you fall into this sort of out-of-this-world world where you can enter the embodiments of people's souls and steal their hearts. It's time to bring justice to all the evil douchebags of the world. Or mostly in Japan, I guess. Overall, Persona 5 is an amazing 80+ hour RPG / life simulator. Nioh comes from Team Ninja, and it's an action RPG that, much like Nier Automata, is based on hack and slash gameplay. Play as the real-life sailor William Adams in 1600s Japan as you explore labyrinths and take on demons. Those of you that enjoy Dark Souls and Bloodborne will definitely enjoy this melee-heavy action game. Speaking of Bloodborne, there's Bloodborne, a brutal action RPG from developer From Software that has you play as the Hunter. The Hunter wakes up one day in this old Victorian-themed city whose citizens all have this mysterious blood disease. The Hunter takes it upon himself to decrypt the secrets of the city, tracing back the source of the disease and taking on all the creatures riddling throughout the city. Bloodborne is as challenging as much as it is an interesting and engaging story with a dark atmospheric setting. Crash Bandicoot the Insane Trilogy, the series of games that reminded adults and showed kids just how tough video games used to be. This game is pretty straightforward. It takes the 3 classic Crash Bandicoot games that were released on the PS1 and remakes them completely for the PS4. The upgrade is incredibly stunning as models have been completely remade and objects that were once just 2D images are now full-on 3D models. If you own a PS4 Pro, the collection runs at the lovely 1440p 30 frames per second. For newcomers to the series, it's a quite brutal platformer, but luckily the newly added autosave feature doesn't have you restart the entire game once you die. Wipeout Omega Collection is part of the series of retro hits from Sony that they've started remastering for the PS4 and the PS4 Pro. We saw it happen with Patapon and Loco Roco, and now we have it with Wipeout. Wipeout Omega Collection contains Wipeout HD, all of its DLCs, and Wipeout 2048. There's a total of 26 tracks and 48 different futuristic fast-paced vehicles to race with. Imagine the speed of F-Zero combined with all the mayhem of the items in Mario Kart, and you have one badass racer with some bumping techno music. Oh yeah, and if you have a PS4 Pro, it actually runs at 4K 60, which is pretty darn cool. That does it for my list of must-have PS4 games, but if you have any recommendations or questions, feel free to ask in the comment section down below, or just hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat. I'm always pretty active on there. Actually, while we're on the subject, I'll pull up Snapchat right now, and this is what you guys look like on Snapchat. That's my Sony RX100, no, this is a A6300. So if you want to see this snap of you guys, how great you guys look on camera, follow me on Snapchat. That link is in the description down below. Thank you all very much for watching, hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.